Ooh. Nice one that time. Nice one, Chris. Nice one. Well, we had such a fabulous spooky night last week, didn't we, Chris?
We sure did. I didn't sleep all week.
Oh, I know. It was terrifying.
Terrifying.
Oh,
It was
just
terrifying.
absolutely frightening. Yeah. Yeah. It was such a good time. We had such great peeps. They were sharing scary stuff with us, dark stuff with us, creepy things. I want to hear more of all the stories that we didn't get to hear the end of. I'm just popping into Facebook over here on my phone. Anyways, yeah, very, very cool. But Chris, what are we drinking tonight?
Well, you know what? I'm taking the night off from the real beer, and I got this. It's a Two Roads non-alcoholic juicy IPA.
Very nice.
Tasty, gotta say.
Good, very good. I every once in a while I have a non-alcoholic beer beverage, and it gives you all kind of the sort of the fun and fizziness and beeriness of beer without the alcohol, which is nice sometimes. That's true.
Well, they're figuring this thing out, and this is maybe the best one I've had.
That's great. Well, Two Roads is just, knocking it out of the park over there. They're doing all kinds of great beverages and all kinds of fun events too. I need to get over to more of them.
I know.
Yeah. I have a pumpkin beer from Half Full Brewery, which I think is in Stamford. Is it?
I hope it's on there somewhere.
It is local. Yeah, Stamford. It's in Stamford, and it's called Positively Pumpkin, and it just is given a very cute vibe with that font, and it's very tasty. I think it's tasty. If you like pumpkin beer, I don't know. If you're a connoisseur, maybe you'll know better than me, but I think it's tasty. I recommend. And it's been a good time. Say again?
It's very controversial, the pumpkin beer.
It is controversial. And I was a total pumpkin beer hater until I finally tried the pumpkin beer that one of my coworkers recommended to me. And then I was a convert. I was into it. And it definitely passes the pretzel test. I haven't had it with a pretzel exactly. But I know that I've had it with enough foods to know that, like, listen.
Probably good. Probably good with pumpkin pie.
Ooh, I bet you. Or, would it end up clashing weirdly? Like, sometimes if something tastes...
It might. Oh, we got Ann, our friend Ann McClellan, artist. Her husband blessed the Two Roads Brewery when they lived in Connecticut.
No way! That's so cool, Ann. We love a blessed brewery.
Yeah, well,
that's
no wonder.
Really cool. That's very neat. That's very, very neat. I love that. Two Roads is really fun. Okay, so Balgay, our regular viewer, our friend, unequivocally against pumpkin beer and just about pumpkin anything else. Balgay! Oh, I'm sorry. I disagree. I'm a pumpkin spice girl. I am. I don't know if there's something pumpkin that I've tasted that I haven't liked. But when I was younger, when I was like a little kid, I was like, forget pumpkin. I was all about, like, chocolate pie, everything. We used to make a little chocolate pudding pie, like a little chocolate cream pie at Thanksgiving. And I was like, that's where it's at. Forget the pumpkin. That's so funny. Yeah. You are certainly spicy. I'd never use the word pumpkin. Oh, thank you. That's so funny. Brenda is excited for tonight. Brenda, we're so excited too. We have two incredible writers with us tonight, and both of them have published poetry. Oh, Chris. I mean, I know Ryan also writes fiction. I know. But we've got more poets than fiction writers tonight, Chris. Yeah, well, we're actually even. We're even.
Surrounded people. I'm surrounded.
Chris Madden is saying, just say no to pumpkin beer. I think I'm alone in the pumpkin beer department, though.
No, I'm with Chris there, but I wouldn't say no to pumpkin everything else. I mean, pumpkin pie for crying out loud. Pumpkin. You know what's good is
Yeah. Pumpkin muffin, pumpkin loaf. What?
Pumpkin soup is good. Pumpkin
Ooh.
bread.
Have you ever had a pumpkin ravioli?
Yes, I have.
It's very tasty, actually.
It takes getting used to, but it can be quite delicioso.
It really can. We need to give our official welcome. It is 8:01. 8:01 or like pumpkin, our serious pumpkin discussion here. But it is 8:01, right after our time change on the summeriest November day in my memory. It's been a wild day, but we are so excited to be here with FUMFA 112 with Dara Kalima and Ryan Stovall. We are so excited to hear both of their readings tonight and to get to spend some time with them in our Q&A. It's going to be an awesome evening. But before we get down to our readings, Chris, tell our audience what's coming up.
Well, next week, we officially celebrate Veterans Day, although we get a little jump on that with Ryan tonight, but who's a veteran. But next week we have a whole bunch of writers from Consequence Forum, which is a online arts publication dedicated to the military writers and people writing about on those subjects. We have with our friend Deb Carr, who has put together a groovy collection of folks: Mark Basquill, Joshua Nagel, Gillen Crichton, Matt Burgess, all are going to be joining us and reading stories. And then the following week, we have our in-person open mic. That's on Friday, the 18th, at Eco Evolution in South Norwalk with our very special guests, Rebecca Dimian from FUMFA, Pete Nelson, former FUMFA faculty member, and we were talking about spice before. We got Kira McSpice, and maybe she'll weigh in on the pumpkin spice controversy.
Oh my God!
So we're gonna have poetry, prose, lots of music, and if you want to be involved in that, then let us know. We will sign you up. It's at 7:30 on Friday the 18th. It's in South Norwalk at Eco Evolution. And then after that, in December, we've got a big double whammy.
Superstars.
Lena Dillon, who has her new book out, and Baron Wormser, who has his new book out. That's on the 4th. And on the 11th, we got Rebecca Dimian coming back to do the online deal, and Derek Webster. So it's like FUMFA madness, December.
FUMFA madness. Yes. It's just FUMFA-tastic, leading up to the holidays and the end of the year. There's going to be so fun. And then, of course, we have our in-person open mic in December as well. So hope you'll be tuning in and coming out to Eco Evolution as well. It's going to be amazing. Also, just want to give a quick shout out to all the fantastic local authors I just saw on Friday and Saturday at Indie Author Day at the Norwalk Public Library. We saw Laurel Peterson, Amy C. Martin, Janet Longo, Suzanne Frischkorn, Victoria Boutron stopped by, and I met so many great people. We hope you'll get to see them on the stream again soon or in person. It was a real delight. So just wanted to give a little shout out to that. And it was just a lovely time, Chris. Without further ado, I think we should get down to welcoming our first reader of the evening, our guest, Dara Kalima. Welcome, Dara.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. We first saw you, Dara, at the New York City Poetry Festival, and your reading just blew us away. And we were so excited and hopeful for you to come on the show. And now here you are. We are pumped. So I'm going to read your bio and then really looking forward to your reading. Dara Kalima, also known as the community poet, is a Bronx, New York resident who started writing at 9, dedicated herself to the craft at 16, and locked into her voice at 25. She holds both a BA and MA in theater. She is the founder of Black Authors Collaborative and serves as vice president of Poetics University. That is the coolest name. I love it. I need to know more about that in the Q&A. An International Institute for Poets. She co-hosts Word to Words, a poetry-focused podcast, and hosts her solo podcast on behalf of. Kalima has performed on across New York and made her international debut in Scotland. She's performed off-Broadway. Kalima explores the concepts of love, parody, and healing all through lived experiences and observations. She has co-authored 4 books: Black Man, Black Woman, Black Child, Casualty of Love, 2 X Chromosomes, and an Extra Shot of Melanin, and Still Laughin'. Connect with her at darakalima.com or on Instagram at Dara Kalima. Take it away, Dara.
Okay, so can you guys see me? I don't see. All right, whatever. I'm fine. I'm fine. Everything's just fine. I'd almost say peachy keen, but that's so 80s. Either way, doesn't this giant smile convince you? See? Full teeth. I'm perfectly fine. Huh? What? What do you mean I seem off or depressed? Girl, you know we Black women don't show our stress. We don't talk about being depressed. We pivot and dress our best. See? I look fine, don't I? I mean, I'm weathering storms like wine does time. Wait, where is that damn wine? I need it at this time. Damn it, I'm sorry. It's fine. I'm fine. Recomposed. And sorry, I didn't mean to suggest that I wanted the wine to drink away the pain, but to celebrate surviving the day. Yay! And sweetie, don't try to read my face. Just trust me when I say I'm fine. How am I? At the words, how are you, I freeze with terror. Answers rush towards my mouth, bottlenecking in my neck, causing me to choke. Eyes try to communicate on my behalf, but pressure forces expression to well, blurring my vision with tears. That question be the roll of dice in a life or death game. My heart rate goes tachycardic as my mind attempts to process the emotions and assess if it's safe to answer. Can the asker hear that I'm crumbling? Life is perpetual aftershocks. I'm being buried under my clutter. My room hasn't been clean in years. I didn't want to get out of bed today or yesterday. I plan to stay in there tomorrow. Work feels like a hamster wheel and my joints are arthritic. Do they care that my body is betraying me? Every month I lose more blood than I can make. My heart is being punished. I'm in love with a man that is making me choose me over us. I say that I will let it go, but each night I dream of returning to his home and his arms. I am an addict. My addictions: boys, love, clutter, food, pain, busyness. I am so tired of being busy. I am mad at myself for waking up in time to turn off the gas that my mom accidentally left on. I am pissed off at my parents for being ordinary, non-superhumans. I am angrier still at them for aging and at my sister for dying. This was her job. It's more of a sentence than a gig. I didn't want any of this, and I shouldn't say a word because I know I will be asked for the umpteenth time, am I thinking of self-harm? And while I am not thinking of it now, I fear the power of suggestion. They'll think me crazy if I suggest part of this is just the price of my melanin. It costs too much. My bank account is empty. And despite all of this, I'm generally okay, I think. I mean, I'm finally healing from the whiplash. The scars from the tongue lashings are mending. And no one died today, though I'm holding space for friends losing people. But I'm carrying all of this on atrophied arms and on knees that creak so loudly they wake me up at night. And I already get less than 5 hours of sleep on average. There's just too many words, or maybe not enough. Not sure if the asker is ready to hear. I almost wish they'd not inquire about my well-being, for I become a deer in spotlight. Please flick the lights off so I can go run and hide. So before I continue, I just want to say thank you for having me. I am reading you a mix of new-ish, old stuff, things from my books. So as we mentioned, I'm reading from Black Man, Black Woman, Black Child, Casualty of Love, 2 X chromosomes with the extra shot of melanin, and then Still Laughing. So Still Laughing is actually a memoir, but there are poems in the back of it. There's more poems in the hardcover than there are in the paperback, but whatever. So there's at least a poem from each one of these books in the set, and then there's a bunch of new stuff in there too. How smart. My Fitbit claimed my heart was in the workout zone while I sat perfectly still, experiencing pre-performance jitters in the back of a dark, sweet-smelling Lower Cider bar. I can't help but wonder how many smartwatches mistook Black folks' fear when encountering police as just another workout session. It registering high activity while their hands are either tightly gripping the wheel at 10 and 2, or high up in the air, their bodies tensely rigid as they wonder if their current attire is their death outfit. They make no sudden moves, but the blood races tracks like NASCAR, hoping to not run off the course because, of course, fatalities are likely at this speed. I wonder if Brianna's or Amir's watches warned them that their heart rates went from resting to tachycardic to non-existent when they were jarred during their sleep. What did the monitors register in these moments? Did they think they were exercising, like it thought I was when my stoic exterior fell to hide my inner terror? Does it not know the difference between frozen fear and fitness? Or are those moments exercises in tracking existence? And if this whole experience wasn't a metaphor, 100 beats per minute, that's my heart, speeding, always, even when resting, except during the 4 to 5 hours of sleep I get when I slow my mind enough to stop my body from reflexively running, because clearly my heart is racing like it were a rat trying to win, or is the blood cells in my vein that are attempting to run away, knowing they are being haunted. Doctors for years have dismissively said my heart was rushed each time they monitor it. Maybe it was rushing the appointments in, rushing out of their chair or off their table, possibly rushing with the anxiety caused by visiting a medical system that seldom treated me properly. No one ever tried to slow it or investigate the cause. It was just my normal, as was my anemia. Despite always being challenged and sharpened, my iron was markedly diminished. My white male primary doctor was so worried that he eagerly, excitedly, and repeatedly scoped and probed my intestines to make sure there was no internal bleeding. There was no internal bleeding there, so he stopped caring about my care. My Asian GYN tried to warn me that fibroids might be killing me slowly. She advised me to eat dark greens and red meat, and told of a patient that was almost exsanguinated as the cautionary tale. But who has time for such tales, or sick time when bosses request that you postpone surgery, and the price of a curative meat requires paychecks with more flexibility? I heard the warning and kept on going, kept on running myself ragged, because bootstraps cost money too, and I've been busy pulling dreams into reality. If I can just make it here, I'll almost certainly make it anywhere. But my new Black doctor connected the pieces with one word: tachycardia. She said my heart was racing like the cops and the Reaper were chasing, because my cup was overflowing with blood while my body was failing to replenish its force. My heart's been working double its speed, shortening my time. No wonder I've been feeling short on breath, exhausted and depleted, like I'll never win. And if this whole experience of my tachycardic heart wasn't an extended metaphor, I'm not sure what is. Why we hunger. I am hungry. And no, this is not a poem about a fat girl that skipped a meal or two. I'm speaking of a deeper hunger, a different hunger. And this is also not a poem about a sexual hunger of a girl that hasn't gotten laid in years. There's worse hungers than this. This poem is about a hunger deeper than food or sex can ever fill. It's about a desire for love. Love that many in my generation seek, a hunger that left me seeking it in the arms of my oversized teddy bear when I was still in single digits. I didn't know what I was seeking, but I knew something was missing. It's a desire created when our households broke down, when one or both of our parents were either too high, too sick, or too far locked away to be present. It's a hunger that developed when drugs were introduced into our communities, when HIV bore bastard babies, when fathers went from providing to being the cause of hiding. It's a hunger that mom alone could not fill, as she filled her days with 2 jobs to feed the 3 kids she was left with. See, I have a hunger for a stable love, a love never present at home, one not shown by example, not the I can do it all by myself love. You know it, the bitter, you don't need a man love. But I did. I needed both of you to teach me how to be complete. But dad was trapped in a bottle and mom was buried under work in the government. The government helped create this paradigm by imprisoning the addicted and paying ladies less than their worth or work proved they should earn. Poverty, struggle, and loneliness fueled in me a hunger no adult mate can sate, but I hunger still. Devouring love prospects because I haven't yet learned to differentiate between examples of healthy love and love for love's sake. So I chase away stability, seeking it in the arms of the unfulfilling known. Hungry soul, seeking hungry soul. All the while malnourished, unable to do better. After all, how was I ever to learn to eat my vegetables when potato chips was my main source of nourishment? So I hunger still, perpetually emaciated, starving while seeking an adequate meal. So my next piece is called Unclaiming Cute. It is one of my oldest pieces. It is one of my signature pieces, and it's a piece that's slightly dedicated to my sister, but also based on real life. And also, if you know Eve Ensler and you've seen the Vagina Monologues, you'll get the reference too. See, candy, cover, crazy, and then you, ooh, cool, cougar, Q, and then T, tasty, texture, T's, and then back to C, cut, cute? See, I can't embrace the word cute like Eve Ensler embraced cunt. She took the word and claimed it and renamed it from the insult it was, but cute. How does one take what seems harmless and transform it to a positive? Cute. Cute is babies, soft innocence is sweet, fluffy puppies, it's teddy bears and Cabbage Patch Kids. Cute is something you want to grab and snuggle with. Cute is that guy you sort of dig. It's that joke that was almost funny. That thing that only slightly grabbed your attention, but cute for many years has been my definition. And trust me, it has not been by choice or by those too deaf to hear my voice. I am that girl that is typecast as friend, that cute label always marking my end. And though admittedly, sometimes I play the child card just to lay it on thick so I can get my way, but that's not who I am every single day. There are times when my man gives me that look, signaling what's up. And from his tasty lips slips, "You're so cute, I just want to eat you up." I become violently nauseous, wanting to run to the can and puke. And after giving back my food, I ask, "How do you like me now? Am I still cute?" I am not a fuzzy little thing that momentarily piques your interest. When I sashay into a room, all know I've made an interest. I am a lady that does everything with style. My unique touch makes everyone smile. I am mature, ambitious, and well-mannered. I'm so good, I succeed every standard. I nurture and support all of those around me. I hide the stress so well that no one can see. I am too good to be found just on anybody's arm. I even greet my enemies with a special kind of charm. I do not neglect my role nor any duties, though you only see cute rather than beauty. See, cute equals young, inexperienced, and naive, but in that definition, you won't find the real me. I am a woman with a body to give life to the world. You get lost in the net I could have twirled. I give birth to inspiration, hope, love, boys and girls, and baby, I have all the womanly curls. My face may be round, my body a little plump, but I will school you while doing the bump. I could drive the sanest wild, make the untamable mild, if only they take the time to see me as more than a child. But first, they must get past their prepubescent views on what a woman is and what she should do. I bring knowledge and wisdom, well surpassing that stage, but with that one word, you act as if I'm half your age. I can surprise you. I can supply you with all you may possibly wish. I may even surprise you with some special tricks, but if I am referred to that way, once again, my sweet dear, you will never get a spin. See, a woman is more than idealized doll, and beauty is defined as more than felt and tall. I am devoted, giving, loving, and wise, and my baggage is only purse size. And though innocent I may look, a step you just mistook, because cute in me just can't be. It's not my label, so don't stick it to me. So while Eve can do pieces on reclaiming cunt with a cuh and a nasty touch here and now, I've decided to abolish that word because this beautiful Black woman just had too much. Okay, so I got 3 more. I think I'm going to cut one of these so I'm going to get through on my time. The erudite mastery of words. I want to write a poem written with, no, dripping with 3-syllable words and such great imagery just to prove that I can master both, that I am more verbose than my typical verse suggests. I want my words to evoke pictographs that tickles and stimulates your cerebrum, persuading you to align your thinking with mine, even if only for a moment, as my balladry inspires one synapse to spark critical thought. But I fear that the ramifications of descending too deeply into hyperbole will steer us towards analogy-filled dead ends, missing opportunities for proper understanding of my phraseology or parlayance into my particular truths. I mean, after all, the 2 shortest sentences in the English language are often misinterpreted. The first is the shortest of them all. No. No is the complete sentence whose definition is often skewed, warped, and contorted into the next shortest sentence. Yes, opposing definitions often mix to the benefit of the hopeful or more so determined beneficiary. Case in point, I said no. I said no. I said no, using the word to be the negative answer to a request. To simply state, the requester was not to get their way. I said no like many before and many after, but it mutated and translated itself into yes in the ears of the receiver. I said no again and again and again. I even followed that with the action of using full force to try to make space between us two, but no, repeatedly morphed into yes as it entered into his ear canal. And since all he could hear was yes, after a sequence of no's, after much duress, I finally said the same. So, if the shortest sentence could be so misunderstood, why obfuscate my message with mixed metaphors, leaving things to the recipient's interpretation? Especially when the shortest sentence that should not be so easy to blur seems quite obscure. I love to write a poem with big words, but there seems to be too much at stake to leave the understanding left in the hands of fate. And then I'm going to do this other one, and I have one last one per request. So this is from the first book, because I had to make sure I had every book in here. Dreams Released. I stand atop the urban precipice while tightly gripping my urn of dreams. It was an old juice can with the words dreams deferred scribbled on the side. It is where the dusty remnants of my dreams found their resting place. My hopes to be a millionaire, the dream of being a beautician, an interpreter, inventor, the need for a marriage by the age of 27, dreams of 3 children. This is where I buried my hopes to be a visual artist, to be a professional singer, or to be the size 2. It is where my desires for others' accomplishments landed and faded. This is where I left my plans to meet the members of my favorite music group, where my concert hopping hopes resides, my desire to direct a Broadway show. I used to mourn these things and even bathe this urn in tears on those nights that I ached for what was never to be. And then one day I started to see this can is never an urn, only a place that captured and contained my vibrant hopes and expectations. These are not the dreams deferred, just the dreams not preferred. I have made my choices, and the path that the others would have led me to would not have ended in the me you see. So, from this precipice, high above this concrete jungle, I release these dreams that weren't to be, but I hold on to this one hope, this one particular dream that these that I now release will be captured and realized by my sisters and brothers that tragically and unknowingly forgot how to fulfill a dream. And then I did not get to 2 X chromosomes, but that's okay. I'm trying to see, is this too long for me to pull that off? So I'm just going to go to the last poem because I like to respect time. Because of the request, I'm going to read the last poem, which is
Dara. We would love to hear your last 2. Just go for it. We'll give Ryan extra time too. Go.
Okay, great. So then, a farewell letter. This is from 2 X chromosomes. Dear world, America, racist society, to whom it may concern or apply, I'm writing you to say farewell, to bid adieu, to make a graceful exit from stage right. This is my resignation letter from all things you, from this society, from this overt and covert system of oppression that you've been pressing against my larynx since before all the miracles came together to form the me you see. I was never a willing pawn in your play, just a chess piece plucked from the continent, used for manufacturing your wealth, whether in fields or from the bullpen office. I am weary of the game, wearier still of my role you've scripted and directed, when then forced me to witness repetitively, showing my portrayals of brown skin as slaves cakewalking, as mammies catering, as thugs being jailed, as leaders being slayed, as if to say my only place in your wet dream is chasing a dangling reward. A place where I'm never reaching a pinnacle, but always, only ever dangling at a precipice, needing your approval. And damn it, I no longer approve, and I will no longer work to prove my place in this masterly designed race. Shit. If a Black president wasn't enough to show you that Black excellence is equally, if not more excellent, then what chance have I? If all of our intentions never got your if all of our inventions never got your attention, if all of our intentions are greeted with your henchmen, if all of our ascension was beyond your comprehension, then you can skip giving me honorable mention in the credits of this story. I am tired of displaying all my goods for you, prostrating myself to you, only for you to leave my scenes on the cutting room floor. Another sacrifice pawn, another skilled performance dismissed in this crafted, prefabricated story. I am not shucking and jiving and yes, mossing anymore in order for you to win the next award, the next battle, to connect the next pawn. So I am laying my chess piece down. I am writing myself out of this script, collecting my hidden computers and tessering to Wakanda, where I am appreciated, where I can just be free, my throat no longer under your oppressive shoe, my hue no longer subjected to your view. So to whom it may concern or apply, our relationship is through. I am taking all my good stuff too. Farewell, adieu, parting in such sweet breakthrough, as will be my life once out from under you. And so now, here's the piece that you wanted. The only borough worth mentioning. I am from the top of the city, standing on the top step of the only mainland borough, a borough so great it comes with a the. My feet stand on the land of the Lenape, who were displaced by colonizers, who were displaced by more white immigrants, who were displaced by African Americans and Puerto Ricans and Dominicans, who shared with the Africans and West Indians and South Asians, who are now being displaced by colonizers. I mean gentrifiers. In this land, the rich have sprawling greenery while others live downwind of the highway smog. Brown lungs are never quite sure when it's safe to inhale inside their impoverished community, but they still breathe life into creative spaces despite the dreary landscape. And though the landscape was never designed for our greatness, and while we who could hopped in cars and traveled north or jumped on the back of the graffiti tattooed still horse going south, it was only for a temporary reprieve. Once you were born here, live here, part of here, you can never really leave here. And it's not because you can only take buses to get from University Ave to 3rd Ave or Kingsbridge to Soundview or Claremont to Throsneck or East to West. You don't leave despite the trains that will take you away, because this place becomes a permanent part of you. It colors your worldview. My childhood was here, where firecrackers and crack vials lined the burnt out streets, where we stole bacon, asked mother if we made, and Simon said if we could. I am from the hood, often known as Uptown, as we boogie down the block to 2 of the 5 largest parks in New York City. My home is Gritty Pretty. Here, you can find exotic flowers and cemeteries, giant geese and peeping toms, lions roam, and folks sit outside nursing homes. Churches and funeral homes are almost every other block. Piragua and ice cream vendors fight for that perfect spot. The streets may be hot, but the fire hydrant's cool. And we do our best to ignore the truancy piranhas circling around our prison preparing schools. This is where grief and joy, hunger and fulfillment, desperation and abundance are on the same side of the coin. They don't oppose each other because we intimately know they are one and the same. We lose many here, but cheer others on. Naji died way too young in these streets, but Sotomayor dreamed of being a judge while sleeping in her sheets. And yes, the Hammerman terrified little girls in Happy Land became victims to the saddest plot, but the parades down the concourse were amazing and epic. Epic resided at the parties on the block. This place has its own rhythm, orchestrated by the disc jockeys who perfectly mix the beats of our birds' rhythmic singing, with the dogs barking, with the skipping and screeching of the trains roaring overhead, with the sirens sounding below, with the guns popping around, with the bachata rocking the ground, with the rain, with the rhythms, with the rhyming lyrics that swayed us, with the voices yelling, "What about us?" There's always a go-to song for any occasion, and boy, do we rise to it while strapping on some skates and swinging our hips and throwing up our X's. In this borough, in my borough, you must know how to give a proper dap and a yo and ooh, ooh, and yeah properly, and be able to translate the differences between you good, you good, you good. The wrong version just might get your ass kicked up in its hood. With the right nod, it is, in fact, all good. This is my pretty, gritty, pretty hood. I was born here. I reside here and likely will die here. And when I'm gone, spread my ashes here for the nights that I cried here. I dined here, lived here, slept here, sighed here, kissed here, made loved here, danced here, laughed here, lived here. Because I am who I am, all because I am from the top of the city and stood on the top step of the only mainland borough, a borough so great it comes with a the. Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the 2 extra minutes.
I'm just controlling myself because I'm able to figure it out. That was awesome. Well, we you already know we love the Bronx Poem, but you just blew us all away. What an incredible reading, Dara. Just full of incredible, powerful poems. Just full of imagery, full of just incredible metaphor. You just pulled at our heartstrings. You made us laugh. We were just cheering for you. You have to go and hop it, especially on Facebook, and just see all of the love that you've gotten during this reading. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Amazing.
You, everyone.
We'll talk to you in a little bit.
Yeah, we're so excited.
People, get your questions ready about the Bronx and anything else.
Yes, for the Q&A. All right, Dara, we will see you at 9.
All right, see you in a bit.
See you, Dara. Chris, I'm like, gonna have a noise complaint today. I was just, and if you saw me in my backstage, I was like, while she was reading. Oh my God, so awesome, so awesome. Well, Chris, it's already been an incredible evening, and we are so excited to welcome also our second reader of the evening, a FUMFA alum, a brand new book of poetry out there. We're just ready to we're just having our socks knocked off tonight, right, Chris?
Absolutely. We've been trying to get Ryan on for a while now.
Yeah.
And finally, here he is. So.
Welcome, Ryan. Dueling buttons. We both have these admin buttons. Sometimes, Ryan, we press them at the same time. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you.
Yay. Well, we are so excited for you and for your book. How are you? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Thank you very much, Katie. It's been a ride.
Very good. Very, very good. Oh my gosh. I hope that's not my neighbor knocking on my ceiling right now. Oh my God. I'm very excited.
Could be. Could be.
Anyhow, Ryan, we're so excited to have you on here, and we're so looking forward to your reading. Chris, can you do the honors of sharing Ryan's bio?
Absolutely. It is my honor. Ryan Stovall is a former adventurer, world traveler, and Green Beret. His poetry and fiction have been published in numerous small journals, and his first book of poetry, Black Snowflakes Smothering a Torch, is recently out from the great Woodhull Press. Ryan writes and hides out in Western Maine, and here he is. Take it away, Ryan.
Take it away, Ryan.
Thank you both so much. I really appreciate it, Katie and Chris. This is a great opportunity for me. And Dara, everybody always talks about tough acts to follow, but I think you have more stage presence in your little finger than I will ever have in all of my entire corpus. So anyway, everybody knows that this is the part where I'm supposed to give a speech, mumble a few kind words of thanks, kind of be gracious and humble and enthusiastic. And to be honest, this is the part I've been waiting for. This is the part where all you wonderful people realize this speech is a poem. You think? How unconventional. This is the part where I pull out a fucking pistol. Uh-oh. And blow off my own fucking head. At this podium. In this fucking church. In front of all you wonderful fucking people. Be shocked. Be outraged. Be incensed. Be disgusted. Be insulted. Wallow in this moment. Relearn to revel in your feelings. Then leave the island, this island, your island, whatever lump of land you've fortified, and strike out into fear, into disgust, into outrage, and live. 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 Strive to be so angry. Hope to be so loved. Thank you. I don't usually perform that one, so it's an opportunity for me on an online reading night. Usually I start at the beginning. The book that just came out is called Black Snowflakes Smothering a Torch. And there's a subtitle, how to talk to your veteran, a primer. As I understand it, that's how you pronounce it when you're talking about an education book and not a small piece of explosive to set off a larger explosive charge, which is where I usually know it from, and we call it a primer. These poems came out of my time in the Army, and a lot of the ways I've been feeling since I got out, coming back to this crazy civilian world. I mean, granted, the military is crazy too, but getting back to this and trying to make sense of it is a task for any veteran. So a lot of this poetry has its roots in that. That being said, poetry is rarely, at least my poetry is rarely factual in the sense of autobiographical. There's a lot of inspiration here, but only some of it can be seen as actually having happened or having a basis in reality. This first poem is called Manhattan. I'm sure some of you have been to Manhattan. Speaking of inspirational or imaginary, I never have. So I just kind of dreamt this one up. Manhattan. Having shot children, we return to too many faces, shuffling sundown-drenched streets, brown, black, or pale, sweating. Some seem accusatory. But soon, under towers' shadows, we see we're still okay. 'Cause of the few out on Hudson's water, not a one is walking on it. And that one kind of came out of the feeling that I think a lot of vets have when they come back, that they're being judged for not necessarily what they've done or who they are, but what people think they might have done or who they might be. This one's kind of fun. It's called Two or More, and it's about a poetry reading that I went to. He's Hescoed in, barricaded behind his lectern, microphone, and dark horn-rimmed glasses, an owl mumbling inanities in place of poems, spewing cold, a broken pipe's sewer gush, unintelligible stuff, cockeyed diction, butter soft, incapable of slicing to the bleeding quick, either intellect or soul. I'd need 2 beers, I hush, to stick my dick in this. Bare minimum. My army buddy nods, rolls her eyes. Finally, it stops. And to close, a second owl stands, drums wings, clicks beak, and hoots the first's pure courage. Context, self-examination. Admiring at length the nerve required to poetry and to, quote, so unflinchingly contemplate the craven void within us all. I pick at an Afghanistan shard stuck just beneath the skin until my left leg bleeds my heart's disgust at sheltered ivory tower fools. I like to think that I've widened my view a little bit since I first had the experience that inspired that poem. I'd say that at one point I was the I voice in that. And now I'd like to think it's more of a persona poem. The vet, the I there, I don't think he or she has any better grasp on or empathy for the idea of self-examination taking courage than the civilians that he or she despises. I think vets often see physical courage as being the only kind of courage. And I can tell you, due to the fact that I'm reading in front of a crowd of virtual people right now, that's certainly not the case. The titular poem of this book, Black Snowflake Smothering a Torch, runs 30 pages. And I haven't found a venue yet where I felt like I could get away reading a 30-page poem without someone calling animal control on me. So what I've been doing, just to give you a little taste, is to read the last page and a half or so. I like it because it captures a little bit of the military's famous dark sense of humor. Not that anyone will find this funny, except for maybe me and the other military guys that are watching. Oh, and originally this poem was called We Return. So there's still echoes of that. A lot of it has to do with returning from either from combat or just returning to the civilian world from army time. So we return and learn and get down to business. Or sometimes, if we're lucky, we return and get down with you bright young things. Either way, we return down airport escalators to waiting families and Boy Scout troops and troop greeters and saluting state troopers and all you giddy bright young things. But many of us gliding down those perpetually flowing stairs are down an eye, a leg, a hand, or a dick. And some of us are somber, and some of us are laughing, not because of any particular gravitas, or because anything is particularly funny, but because everything is fucked. Except for the dickless guys, of course, who, aside from escalator rides, will never get down again. And we begin to giggle uncontrollably, which thankfully, unfortunately, whatever, makes it impossible for the cheruby Boy Scouts gaggling nearby to hear how, in between our red-faced giggles, we've given up even trying to stop ourselves from taking the Lord's name in vain. This next one is what Buddhists call a koan, and I'm not a Buddhist, but my understanding of a koan is that it's a short, pithy kind of poem or saying that's supposed to sort of shock the reader into an altered or new perception. If a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it make a sound? So it sets you to contemplating things. And it's entitled Zen? There's a question mark. If a coffee cup, an oversized metal travel mug, is dropped, bounces between several pairs of sturdy boots, and slides out the open door of an American helicopter, hovering above the dusty streets of Quetta, spewing droplets, a chrome meteor, spinning, shining through the sunlight, filling cool desert morning air, gathers 1,000 feet of speed before striking a child on a bicycle, splitting her head like a dark-haired pumpkin, whacked by an axe. Does it make a sound in America? And thankfully, that one's not autobiographical, but it's based on. It was almost. I was working in Quetta, Pakistan for quite a while, and we were training the Pakistani army how to fly Huey helicopters. I wasn't. I was doing medical coverage for the pilots, but as part of my job, I flew back and forth across Quetta in the helicopter about 3 times a day, and we would have the guns out the doors, the big machine guns, and the doors off. And so you're flying with open walls on either side. And I got a little lax and I dropped my coffee cup, which was metal, and it landed on the sheet metal floor and started skittering around in between everybody's boots. And I grabbed it really quick before it went out the door and killed somebody. But I thought, what would have happened if I hadn't? This is another one that's about 2/3 factual, I guess. It's called I Helped, and it's also based on something that happened, partly as it's related. I helped. They claimed you were 10, but no American would have guessed 7. Scant food had left you stunted, your bones brittled, and now your dusky brown fragility lay shattered, a broken clay pot beneath a crisp white sheet. They claimed a stone wall caved in, but how could we know if that was true? There are so many ways a girl child can be broken in the desiccated mountains bordering Afghanistan. They claimed you were in pain, and tears did pool in your eyes. But when I sank my stare in those soft, dark wells, I saw a plea beyond your current mangled state. They claimed you were deserving of my help. So I delved until I found a vein, drew up morphine from a vial, threw one last look into your wretched eyes, seeking confirmation or encouragement, maybe absolution, and pushed 10 times your dose. So before anybody thinks I'm out there mercy killing people, I accidentally overdosed a young lady on morphine, and then gave her Narcan, which is in the news occasionally, that they use for heroin overdoses, which is the same exact drug. I guess I'll read this one. It's called medic guilt. Medic guilt is just a general term that gets applied to how medics feel because they can't save everyone. Medic guilt. If I tell of terror, must I also admit shame? Shall I say I have lain spread-eagled in a breeze-torn verdant field, my boots to a solitary rock, my eyes squeezed shut while snap-crack bullets clipped the wholesome grass and dropped their tidbit stalks onto my mitch? I have seen soldiers go wild-eyed when bark sprayed by bullets from a pine, when limbs and needles showered from a pine spattered across their sweating shoulders where they crouched below. And I have found men curled behind stacked stone walls as if the womb were present in the furrows of a plow. I have smelt the death sweat pouring from a friend, have known I led him there, have known that in my fear I failed him, have known behind the rock I failed him, that when I failed to immediately open my eyes and rise, I failed him. This one is called Army Brat, and it's dedicated to Gary Gordon and his family. Gary Gordon was one of the guys from the Black Hawk Down incident. I don't know if you've seen that movie. One of the guys who volunteered to go in and try to save one of the air crews to keep them from being overrun. But since it was just him and one other guy who went in, they ended up getting overrun. So he died, and they posthumously gave him the Medal of Honor. And this is something I wrote in tribute to him and his family. I pictured a scene up here in Maine. He's from Maine, on the coast, on the same day that that happened, which was October 3rd, 1993. Army Brat. Summer's last faint breath pushes up the hill, a gentle warmth that speaks of growth and love. There will be no other breeze like this until maybe sometime late next year. The tall grass bends, embraces the breeze. The oak's leaves give up a gracious sighing. The girl's short yellow hair ruffles a little. Black clouds behind the breeze, stark, brutal winter, gather, staring out of each. The girl turns and with a solemn heart trudges down the meadow hill that faces out across the sea. And this one's called The Firing Line. It's I spent a lot of time in Africa, and Africa is truly still trying to recover from being colonized by Europe and primarily Europe, and milked for slaves by the United States for so long. It's a mess. And you can still see that in everything from their dysfunctional governments to their valuing of certain colonial customs that don't make any sense. It's called The Firing Line. Under the searing sun of Gao, between some scrubby brush and the last few stunted trees, at the edge of the sand where the paved road and all life ends, a sweating line of coal-black suns prostrate themselves upon the ground as if to pray. All squint against the searing sun of Gao, across a swath of sand to where a jumbled mound of smashed basalt lies broken black and pink at the base of a long cliff, jutting skyward like a church. This Mecca they all face, the rusting hulks of cars, not Humvees or APCs, but sedans and minivans, strewn before the rocks and left to bake beneath the searing sun of Gao. At an order, the hammers fall in unison, and the reports echo from the cliff, and join the cacophony of whining ricochets and plinking tinny hits, rolling sharp and menacing across the desert lying bare under the searing sun of Gao. Atop the cliff, the ghost of Mother France looks down on them from the bombed and burned out remnants of an old colonial villa, tears flowing down her peachy cheeks to wither and parch beneath the searing sun of Gao. Let me see what else I can find in here. I have, there's a couple poems I generally don't read, either because they're too long or there's one that I have to sing part of, and I'm not up for that, so I usually just go right over that one. This one's one I wrote and dedicated to a teammate of mine. It's called Shoot at Me. Fear is watching tracers stitch between your sniper partner's legs when at dusk his desert BDUs sprint the dusty road that winds the valley up to Spare Kunde. Love is hoping the Talib gunner will notice your Humvee, will decide your truck, a lumbering behemoth of a target compared to a single sprinting man, is in need of stitching. And I guess this one's for all the mothers in the crowd. I wrote it for my mom. It's called Sans Shield. If you're familiar with the saying, with your shield or on it, it's originally from Plutarch's sayings of Spartan women. It usually gets attributed to that Spartan mentality, the idea that you're either going to come back carrying your big heavy shield, or you're not going to throw it away when you're running from a fight, or else you're going to be carried on it. Sans Shield. All mothers always stand stiff and proud for all the world to see, but all mothers have always longed to whisper to all sons, Sans Shield is fine. Just return to me. Still doing okay on time. This one's a little tricky to read, but I'll see what I can do. I wrote it with a lot of short, choppy syllables on purpose. So it's a little bit of a tongue twister. It's called Desert Rain. Living spring leaves spin down singly or drift in droves, freed not by fall's frost, but snipped from trees by snapping bullets buzzing past. Peaceful puffy clouds beyond the boughs reflect faintly from a face whose skin is pallid, pouring sweat, a sallow fallen leaf so pinched in pain that prayers spoken softly ask not for survival, but beg swift passage past this fragile, failing state. From above, hot salt rain drips onto the pale face and patters crater impacts in the powdered desert dust beside the shell that's just become my brother's body. So I was wounded on 2 different occasions in Afghanistan, 5 weeks apart. I'll tell you what, after that, your teammates won't be anywhere near you when people are shooting at you because they figure you're bad luck. So that was fun. But I had imagined myself addressing the bullet and the rocket that wounded me. It's called I'm Still Here. And this will be my last poem. Bullet, who slapped rock, zipped up, burrowed through my thigh. And rocket, who blasted dirt, desert rock, coarse grit inside my calf. You came to be before I reached desert, crossed wadi, climbed mountain, before I ever saw my first child. Before I ever saw my first child burning beside a V-bid thrashed fuel blivet. Burning but alive. Before my friend, gasping pain, sweating scared, stinking iron, bled rust across my thighs and died. Before I could not save him. You and me, violent sons, sprung from peaceful lands. You and me, smuggled over desert sands, over wadis, over mountain passes, by night, by moonlight, by cautious and determined men. You and me, laid down like seeds by these constant men, poked into dusty soil, watered blood and fed belief, so we might sprout one day and blossom future deaths for these stained souls, for these true flag-thrashing believers, for these oh so righteous and determined men. I've fulfilled their unthought-out intent. A dozen times I've interred as they intended. So many. Too many. I'm still here. But where are you, besides the bits residing in my leg? My scars all scream you've failed. Thank you.
Ryan! Oh my God. So intense, so powerful, Ryan. Just like I'm still like barely breathing over here, imagining these scenes.
That's not good. Breathe, Katie, breathe.
Ryan,
You need to hold your breath.
wow, right? Like so powerful, so intense, oh, so dark and but so unfortunately so real. Ryan, what powerful poems those were. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. I struggle to read dark poetry because I'm always smiling.
Ah.
I'll make a real contradiction. I have to sort of
No, Ryan, I was just about to mention this, that your delivery makes it all the more powerful because, you know, you have just such a calm presence,
right?
And your delivery is very understated, and then but the words that you're reading are so intense and shocking. I mean, you know, in that first poem that you read, you talk about the shock, right?
Right.
I mean, it really works.
And it's a major invitation to feel, to see it, to not gloss over it, to call a spade, and to address your feelings. Incredibly powerful.
Thank you.
Really, really awesome. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for an incredibly powerful reading. We are very excited for your book, and we are very excited to welcome back Dara Kalima for our Q&A. Another round of applause for Dara Kalima and Ryan Stovall. incredibly powerful readings tonight. I have been on an emotional roller coaster. I'm sweating. I was totally captivated in both of your readings this evening, and just both of you bringing us to very different places, testifying to levels of darkness, but also just bringing us on your different journeys. And it's been really, really incredible. Thank you so much for being our guests. Well, let's get started with our very first, our famous first question. And while you audience out there get your questions in the chat, but Chris, can you do the honors of starting us off with our famous first question? And we'll get started, Dara, and then Ryan.
Yep. So it's a simple question, but it's not always a simple answer. But the question is basically, how has being a writer, how has writing changed your life? So Dara, what do you think?
Oh, it's been great and horrible all at the same moment. It is, it's funny because I perform and write under my first and middle. This is not my last name. And unfortunately, the two personas are at war sometimes.
I love that.
Cool. A lot of times, a lot of people are like, well, Dara Kalima, once you started writing under Dara Kalima, once you started seeing that persona come out, we understood that that's really you. And so, unfortunately, the other version of me is still has to exist to survive. But Dara Kalima is really who I probably am more, and that's hard. It's hard to be this person who can be a lot more real with her tongue, a lot more honest, and know that there's repercussions for the other version of me. So it's been harder that's why I had to use this name, because I need to get a job tomorrow if I need to switch jobs or something. And some things are just not allowed to be said the way that I say them as a writer. But it's been liberating, and it helps me process. And the best part of it really is that the other people who say, the best review I ever got is a friend of mine read my book and I didn't know she read it, and she wrote a review, and her review was essentially, now I don't feel alone. And that's the reason to do it.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
We love it. We love that, Dara. And I could so relate to that sentiment that like your poetry or your writing persona, like it gives you this outlet for expression, this freedom. And you're like, that. I think that's really who I am at the core. I'm so glad that I have that. So awesome. Thank you so much, Dara. And Ryan, this question over to you. How has writing changed your life?
Well, in a certain sense, especially the poetry is, it's an extension of me going to therapy and talking to a shrink. I get to write and play with things that normally trouble me that you wouldn't normally consider something to play with, if that makes sense. But poetry has always been about, there's been a sense of play to it, even when I am handling the topics that I'm handling. So it's really beneficial for me. I'm not sure if the same thing's true about my fiction or not. I'd have to really think about that. It feels more like work sometimes, but the poetry, I always come to it with that sense of play. And so, it's been beneficial. It's helped me put into words some things that I wouldn't otherwise. So
yeah. And to maybe make associations, to say things in flow that don't have to be linear. I think all of that is in my own situation, really therapeutic for me and very freeing, and invites that play into it where you're connecting words and images. And then maybe you can't do that quite as freely in fiction, although I can't speak to that. I'm a poet over here. I'm the poetry half of the show. Chris can tell you.
No, I mean, it's so interesting because, if you sat, whether in a therapist's office or with friends, family, or whatever, and told some of these stories, It's such a different thing from sitting down there. First of all, you're writing it, right? So it's on a piece of paper or on a computer, and then you're like breaking lines, and you're figuring out metaphors, and like you said, I mean, it is a form of play. It's work, but it's playful, and maybe that distracts whatever side of your brain that is that kind of helps you to get at that dark material that otherwise would be so hard to just talk about.
Totally.
So I think that's really interesting, and I'm wondering, and well, I mean, we had a question here.
Yeah, we have a totally perfect question right for this moment.
Yeah. So, but Dara, what do you think? Is it therapeutic for you to write this?
It's funny because my first three books, the first three books are all poetry. My last book is a memoir. And they're all sort of response to what's going on in the world. When my first one came out, it was a Black Lives Matter response. The second one was my Me Too book. And then I was in this intersectional feminism place with 2 X chromosomes with extra shot of melanin.
Awesome.
But Casualty of Love was written because of the Me Too stuff, but it was before Me Too actually happened. It was me noticing what was happening in the news before Alyssa Milano actually said the words that was really from Tarana Burke, but it was me sort of seeing the cycle of what was happening in the news. And I was like, well, I need to tell my story. But the only reason why I could tell my story was because I was actually in therapy, having lost my sister back in 2005, and then I had been date raped. And I didn't know what date rape looked like. I didn't know the ways in which it manifests in a person. But I saw someone who looked like my rapist, and something triggered me. And I was like, I called my therapist, and I was like, next week we need to talk about this. Like, I don't know what this response is, but I need to talk to you about this now. Right. And so I go to her the next week, and she goes, oh no, everything you have exhibited for the last 4 months is classic date rape victim behavior. Mm-hmm. And that's when everything made sense. And I didn't know what I was manifesting or behaving. And so she had me write it out. So a lot of the poems about that specific incident was written years ago to help me get through therapy and help me get through that diagnosis of everything that had happened to me. And no one was seeing it. My therapist was seeing it, maybe a friend or two. It was never for public light, until the news broadcast kept switching into these topics. And I was like, somebody got to talk about it. Nobody talks about this. Someone has to talk about this experience. And so that's why I put it into the book. So it absolutely is therapy. And there's things that I'm going through now that are not tied to that topic. But if I wasn't, and I had stopped writing for a while because things were so real that I couldn't even access words. But simultaneously, if I wasn't writing, I'd probably losing my mind. And the night that I was closest to committing suicide was also the night that I picked up a pen and paper and started writing a poem. So if I didn't have a friend intercept me, and if I didn't have a pen and paper right then behind that, and people think I just wrote that poem randomly. No, that was written the night that I had contemplated and was really close. And so poetry is 1000% therapeutic for me. That was a long answer. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Oh, this is so powerful and so real, right? We're not just, writing is such a powerful tool. Poetry is such a powerful tool. We are creating, and in that creating, we're able to heal, and that is also so healing to others who get to experience that. It's so powerful. It is so life-giving. It's a life-giving choice to choose to express yourself, to believe in that.
And even not just with poetry, but so that happened 2006. I studied under Natalie Goldberg, and I was studying with her this winter. And for the first time, I actually wrote the prose version of my assault. So how many years later did I finally able to sit down and write it? But I was able to finally write that story. And I'm almost certain it'll be in the next memoir, but give me 2 more years for that book. But it took me like all these years to write it. And I still had to address it but writing it down and facing it in that way was like a whole different format. But I am a memoirist too. So sitting there going, okay, now we're going to do it this way.
Fantastic. Both of you keep writing in all forms. And we, it's so powerful. It is so important. And I'm sure that that healing is felt by others through you, and it's always worth writing and sharing. Ryan, anything else on the therapeutic quality of writing that you'd like to share before we jump into our next question?
Well, I just want to say thanks to Keith for asking that. I worked medicine with Keith quite a few years ago, and as far as I know, Keith is a flight medic on a helicopter, and that's a high stress job. And there's an impact that happens when you're dealing with sick and injured people all day, every day for your career. So I hope Mr. Witt is writing as well.
I hope so too. I hope so too. We have a question that has come in from Bonnie Boucher. She said, Ryan, how do you hope your poetry can help vets and or civilians talking with vets?
Thanks, Bonnie. So the subtitle is, how to talk to your veteran, and I'd like to get a dialogue going, right? And that doesn't really that doesn't have a lot of meaning. That's kind of a set phrase unless you contextualize it. That poem I read, two or more, about me going to a poetry reading and thinking, oh, these civilians don't know anything about courage. I put that in a literary journal with a contextualizing piece of prose, and I kind of said that it goes both ways. The persona, the speaker in that poem, he doesn't understand the civilians any better than they understand him, and I think that's perfectly surmountable. We can get past that, and I don't think it would require a great deal of empathy for veterans to have greater respect for example, what civilians consider courageous, and vice versa. And I think that greater understanding would engender some useful dialogue. So ideally, the poems in this book are going to give non-military folks hopefully an accurate glimpse of some experiences. But for the military folks that read it, the veterans and the active duty people, I hope they can see that we're not in some blessed exalted position of rightness either. We got a lot of work to do, and it's work worth doing. So.
Absolutely. Ryan, thank you so much. That was such a perfect question. I'm glad somebody got to ask that very specifically, especially as it relates to, your book of poetry and the subtitle there, and these different kind of scenes and perspectives we're seeing in those poems. And I wanted to ask a question to both of you to bring it back to the beginning, earlier in your lives, perhaps. How did you get started with writing, and especially writing poetry, which you shared tonight? So were you always a reader? Was there a teacher that inspired you? Have you been writing since you remember? Did you participate in the writing program? Dara, and then Ryan.
It's always weird. I can almost never answer that question properly, and my mom and I will fight about the answer on this one. I feel like
your bio did tell us it's.
I know, but it's actually not true. But like it's sort of true. So my mom and I disagree about when it was, and we think now that it's actually like 7 instead of 9.
Okay.
Like all I remember was writing. Like I was not a reader. I am still trying to be a better reader than I ever was. I'm not really the I tell people I don't read, and I say that purposefully because I don't read what everyone else is reading. So I am a reader, but I'm not. I'm getting there. But I do advocate as a writer, you should be reading. So don't follow my lead, but read. But like I always read, like I didn't like writing, I didn't like reading. And then I remember poetry by like my teacher, Miss Goodman, when I was a kid. And I remember writing all the little roses of red things. And I wrote them on like index cards. And so I wrote my own versions of those. And I had the index cards for a very long time. So like the first poems I have were from back then. I wrote a poem about my grandmother. It was a terrible poem. Like when you look at what kids are writing now, they're writing circles around what I was writing back then. But I still have those poems. So I still have them. Some of them are in my first book, because I didn't have to fake a child voice because it existed. I won't say they're the best poems in the book. I'm just going to say, but they exist, and some of them are in the book. So I was always writing, but like I wrote my first children's story when I was 9, and I read them to the kids, and like I read it to my classmates, and it was typed on a typewriter because I loved my typewriter back then. So like I remember all of that, but then like when I was 16. I had started being part of the youth theater, and the youth theater was very short. Like it was a short program. And when that program ended for the summer, and I was a founding member of that group, but when the program ended for the summer, I had this creative energy and I needed to do something. And I needed to understand. I also found out, because no one told me, I had a half brother. And so I was like, well, what am I supposed to do with this information? And because everyone else knew, but I'm the baby. So that's old news to everyone but me. And then I had a friendship that was falling apart, and I was like, what do I do with all these feelings and things? And so I started writing, and then I've never stopped. So
I love it.
I say I started really at 16, but all these ages are relative.
It was an on-ramp. It was a long on-ramp from childhood, and then it was just locked in.
Exactly.
I love it. Ryan, what about you? How did you get started with writing and get to where you are now? Summary. Timeline.
I have written for a long time. You see other people's, like their juvenilia, what they wrote when they were young, and you're like, wow, you can see signs of genius there. That's incredible. No one will ever want to read the stuff that I wrote when I was young, up to the tender age of about now. I wrote, I guess when you're young, you write stuff that while you're trying to figure out what love is. So I wrote that. And I went to college before I joined the military for a few years, and I wrote some there. I took some writing classes, and then I went into the military, and I mostly just kind of journaled. And then when I got out, and I stopped traveling, doing work all the time. I was a defense contractor. I was traveling all over the world. I came back to Maine, and I started writing and going to school. And within a couple of years, I made it part of my regular routine. I write every day,
Wonderful.
And I think I initially appreciated poetry because it was something I could do to play around when I got blocked trying to write fiction. So I would get stuck, and I would just switch genres and play for a while.
Just like be free. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so this collection is all stuff I've written in the last, I guess, 5 years.
Amazing.
And none of the embarrassing stuff made it into this one. Treated up or not. So yeah, I think that's where it's at. And I honestly don't know if I'll probably keep writing poetry, but I couldn't tell you when I would try to get another manuscript published.
It makes itself happen. It has its own, the spirit moves, Dara's like, yes.
I think that's accurate. This is sort of an off chance, and I'm thrilled it happened, but it was never something I was going to pursue. And I'm really happy, but I'm not really planning on continuing to chase the poetry dream. I'll keep writing. That's all I
feel like you're going to just like discover, you're just going to like have these different times where you're blocked and these incredible poems are going to come out, and you're going to be like, I guess I have another manuscript here.
Give it time.
I think that's fantastic. I think that's fantastic. And that's cool too, because a lot of times, at least in my experience with poetry, like when you're kind of most in flow is when you're least trying to like form or shape or force it. I mean, sometimes in editing, you're doing a little bit of that work, right? But if these are just like kind of happening like that, then you're probably going to be all set. Before we get to our famous last double question, I have one more question for both of you. You are both in your own individual styles and voices, like imagery rock stars, right? Like Dara, I mean, in all of your poems, but I mean, I'm thinking specifically of, Generalissimo and I were talking about the Bronx poem, like it's about 20 minutes before you even said it, before you even mentioned it. We were like so excited. But, to both of you, and of course, Ryan, I'm thinking especially of that little metal coffee cup and that incredibly intense imagery. And then that ending of like, do they hear it in America? You're like, whoa. So how do you seize on an image or a series of imagery and like get into that flow and decide this is going to be a piece? Does it just happen? Does it just, you just follow that flow, or do you like catalog images and then say, I will write about this one day? Dara and then Ryan.
Ryan and then Dara.
Right. Okay, Ryan, we'll start with you and then we'll jump back to Dara.
That's an interesting question. I've got my best guess is that I start with either event that I want to explore or some sort of emotion or feeling, and then I work from there to find images to best convey that. I'm not a collector of images per se. I don't wander around with a poetry notebook like I know some friends of mine do.
Yeah.
And I thank you for saying that I have good images. I've read much better. So I don't know. I'm focused more on trying to quote unquote get across what I want to get across.
Like the core of the
tool.
Starting from that. Yeah. Very cool, Ryan. And Dara?
Yeah, I think in this version of my writing's changing. So since I started the poetry school, I've been getting very much more detailed in my imagery, and since the pandemic, I mean, I slowed down in the last few months, but I've written over 1,000 poems during the pandemic started.
That's amazing.
And I've been tweaking my style. There's been so many classes that we've led, and I've done every class for the most part. And so I'm really trying to harp in on small details and getting rid of unnecessary words and really trying to make it tangible for people. So what you're seeing mostly in what you heard today is a lot of stuff where I'm, and so the things that even if I'm performing them, I'm performing the things that have more, something to hold on to. A little bit more. So even if they were older before this time, they still are the ones that have that thing. But I don't write down stuff. I don't keep same thing. I don't keep that poetry thing that people keep. But I do sort of go like, that's interesting. So the other day I saw a geese flying north for winter and I was very confused. And I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, do you know that you're going in the wrong direction? Like, turn around, the wrong way. And so I love that. To like steer in the wrong direction. They were so confused. And I was like, I have to hold, like, there's a poem in that. And I feel like there's a poem in that. And then I wrote a totally different disconnected poem about a different moment in life for me. And it almost, and I was like, but everything's been changing since the pandemic. Even the geese went the wrong way. And that's sort of how I ended the poem. And I was like, there you go. That's where that line came in. So like, if you keep certain, it wasn't connected to anything else, but it's still just capitalized on how
like
crazy things are.
Right.
And so if you just be present and mindful and as much as you can of every moment, those moments will come back at some point that you can just like, oh, and that's the perfect one to put right into that poem.
So true, Dara. That is so good. Yes. We love that. That's a great story too. I'm gonna remember that. Like those geese, those confused geese. That's so great. Well, we need to get to our famous last double question. Chris.
Yes.
With that question.
Yes, quickly. So we'll start with Ryan, then and go over to Dara. Part one, we're looking for a pearl of wisdom. some writer advice that you can offer to the folks out there. Part 2, a book recommendation. Ryan, what do you got for us?
Interesting. My writerly advice is one word. It's an imperative, just so there's no confusion.
Okay.
Write.
Do it.
If you want to be a writer, write.
Yep.
My recommendation, I have read some great fiction recently. I haven't been dipping into anybody's poetry beside my own. So I just read a book by Robert Olin Butler. He wrote a collection of short stories called A Good Scent from a Strange Mountain.
Yep.
And won the 93 Pulitzer, and I think that was actually well deserved. And he managed to write 15 stories, all from the perspective of Vietnamese immigrants living in this country after the Vietnam War.
Oh, wow.
And he did a fabulous job of representing the stresses and the contradicting poles that those folks faced. Wow. Fabulous writer.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ryan.
I've read that one too. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and excellent advice, right? How often do we stop ourselves as writers from just getting to writing, for just making it happen, right? Thank you so much, Ryan. And Dara, a pearl of wisdom and a book recommendation.
So mine is the same exact it's the same exact pearl of wisdom, actually. Write and then worry about editing later.
Yes.
You'll edit it later, but if you can't edit anything if you didn't write it down.
Exactly.
So just write it down. Don't worry about what it's doing. Write it. Come back to it when you're supposed to do it. And so book suggestion, I got stuck between two, partially, and I feel like I don't have the right name of the book, so I'm anxious about saying it right. So the book I'm reading my friend's book now and I don't have it on me. That's the thing that's bothering me about it. But it's a book by Goodwin is the new name. I think the book is called War Cries, but it may be a new published version because I don't think this is the right version of the book. So Goodwin is it's an amazing book. I thought of it because of you, Ryan, because it's about her vet experience or their vet experience. I think they're non-binary. Their vet experience. And so it's been blowing my mind. I'm almost done. I've been reading it every time I've been in the doctor's office. But if I don't have the title right, I don't want to give that book a suggestion is wrong. Cause I've tried to Amazon it and I couldn't get to it. So then if you really want to learn about haiku, 3 Simple Lines by Natalie Goldberg, absolutely cracked open haiku for me. And it's not about haiku. It's about her study of the haiku masters, but it still will open up haiku for you.
Oh, cool.
3 Simple Lines, Natalie Goldberg.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dara. And just one more round of applause for our incredible guests this evening, Dara Kalima and Ryan Stovall. Thank you so much. Really powerful, incredible readings. Everybody go out there and grab these books by Dara Kalima and Ryan Stovall. I think available wherever books are sold, or Amazon, or most preferably the publisher or the author directly.
Yep, you can go to my website.
Go to Dara's website, yes. And thank you so much to our awesome audience for joining us this evening. Please, both of you, go hop especially onto Facebook and see all of the comments and love that you received if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet. It's been an incredible evening. Thank you so much, Dara and Ryan.
And
thank you
to everybody out there. Vote.
Yes, I did that today. Go vote. Go vote. Go vote. Go vote.
Everybody, please go vote. And next week we have coming up, Chris, remind them.
Yep, it's our Veterans Day reading, so we continue the veteran vibe here with some folks from Consequence Forum, including our old friend Deb Carr, Mark Basquill, Joshua Nagel, Gillen Creighton, Matt Burgess. Join us next week. It's going to be fantastic.
Yes. And don't forget to sign up, come out for our in-person open mic on November 18th at Eco Evolution. It's going to be awesome. Have a fantastic night, everyone. Thank you so much. Good night.
Peace, everyone.